Are you aware that a lot of fans are very unhappy with the way the series ended?
Oh, yes.
What do you say to them?
Well, it wasn't my fault. I mean, I didn't write it, and indeed Terry didn't write it either. I wish he had. I think it would have been different. Once it was there to be done, I thought it was very well done. The director did a marvelous job, and I think we did it. The actors in it did it well. I say to anybody who objects to it or is upset by it, I say, I'm sorry, but that's what it was. There's nothing I can do about it. At least it provoked a reaction. And it's not necessarily over. I was left standing, as you say. Servalan was not in that episode at all. Aurak is buried somewhere. So you could, if you just brought back Servalan and Avon, have another series, couldn't you? Avon and I, or something.
Well, one of the theories is that everyone was just stunned. They weren't really killed.
Well, yes, it's an easy way out. Isn't it? I think some of them were killed.
I've heard that final episode was kept secret right up until the time.
Well, certainly we didn't know about it until about 3 weeks beforehand. What was going to happen to everybody, no. I knew that I was going to kill Blake. That's roughly all that interested me at the time. And when I got the script, you tend, you know, to just accept the script as it comes, and that's your job as an actor to portray what they put down. Sometimes you say, well, now listen, I don't think he would do this, or I think he would do this. May we alter it, and they will.
Let's talk about some of the historical aspects. How indeed did you get the part of Avon?
I was asked to do it. I got a call from my agent at the time saying, will you go along and see the producer? They're going to do this futuristic series. And I said, what do you mean by futuristic? Do you mean tomorrow, next week? And she didn't know. I'm never quite sure when it's set myself. And they said, well, the producer said, not they, go and read these scripts, if you will, 4 of them. I read the first one, and this character wasn't even in it. And then I read the next 3, and I thought, I see, fine, this is the best part.
You appeared in a few episodes of Doctor Who as well.
Well, many years ago, I did a short season. They used to do little stories lasting maybe 6 episodes or something. Anyway, I did one of those with John Pertwee. That was a long time ago. And then recently I did one with Colin Baker, what was it, about 18 months, 2 years ago, called Time Lash. The producer wanted me to play the character rather like Avon, and I didn't want to do that. So he comes out rather like Richard III, I think. I didn't think the script was all that wonderful, but I didn't think it was badly done. It's a bit of fun. And also Colin and I are friends, and it was enjoyable to work with him.
Do you find any great differences or similarities between the 2 series? In America, we look at, quote, British science fiction, and I think some viewers might tend to kind of lump it all together. How would you distinguish the 2 series?
Doctor Who is primarily aimed in Britain at children. Blake 7 received a lot of complaints because it was adult, violent. Not just in actual physical violence, but in the violence of the kind of look that you describe, for example. So it was more an adult program. And in fact, I don't think there's any similarity at all, other than the fact that they're set in the future.
Another thing about Blake 7 that makes it so interesting, it's something you touched on earlier, is there's really less emphasis on special effects and more on plots and characters.
Yes. Well, that's because we didn't have the money. Again, talking to the Star Trek people, they say, you know, we have quite a lot of money. I remember saying to George Takei, can you give me a rough idea of the budget you'd have for an episode? And he told me, I forget what he said, but it was quite a lot of money. And I said, George, we would have that for a whole series. So.
But you did have some degree of special effects. Did you do your own stunts, for example?
Yes, I did. I did all my own stunts. It's a foolish macho thing about actors that they like to be able to say, I did all my own stunts, and I can honestly say that I did. On the other hand, of course, there was a stunt arranger there who was an instructor for the parachute regiment in England and the SAS, so he was a very tough cookie. And if he said, don't do it, I wouldn't have done it. Some of them were a bit hairy, as we say, you know, when there's dynamite about.
What's it like working around live dynamite?
Well, I'll be perfectly honest with you, George. Scary. Very scary, but if you say you're going to do it, then you've given your word and you do it. So I did it, but I didn't enjoy the real dynamite, no.
What was it like on the set? What was the atmosphere like working with the other actors?
Good, quite jokey, really. We had a bit of fun. I think that again, one of the assets of the program was the tremendous enjoyment that we all got out of it. I enjoyed it immensely. If you go to work in the morning and you do so sluggishly because you really don't want to go, then I think that's sad. And I loved going to work. It was hard work because sometimes you were up at the crack of dawn and off in some freezing place. But it was very enjoyable.
I understand Michael Keating is quite a jokester.
Yes, yes, he's got a reputation for that, and it's quite justified, yes.
Can you tell us any particular anecdotes or incidents that come to mind?
Yes, it wasn't particularly something Michael did, although I suspect it might have been his idea. Oh, we were on location once, and it was my shot. I'd been in a fight with a couple of stuntmen. I had to come over the hill, you know, with the gun, looking really tough, and we shot all this in one tiny sequence. The director said, cut it, print that one. I was quite pleased because they don't always print the first take. And I was walking down the hill having finished it, and suddenly these cards came up from the other actors saying 5.9, 4.3, you know, as if I was a Nadia Comaneci or something, you know. So that was very amusing. Yeah. We used to play gags on each other, of course. You'd fall over or make a mistake. I broke 3 guns. I had to do a roll. And the stuntman said, well, I think maybe we'll get a stand-in to do this because it's tricky. And I said, no, I'll do it. And the gun was on that hip. And I hit the ground with the gun, and there's this great crack as the gun breaks. So I broke 3 guns in the space of about 5 minutes.
The props people must have loved that.
They went crazy. Eventually they made me a gun with an aluminium core. So that it wouldn't break. And somebody stole it. I love that.
So you can't win.
No.
Is there anything, if you had it all to do over again, that you would like to see different in the Blake series?
Oh, well, that would take an awful long time to discuss. I suppose, yes, you always can improve on something, however good you think it is. I'm very proud of it. There are 1 or 2 of the episodes that I'm not quite as happy with. From the writing point of view, sometimes 1 or 2 from my point of view. I don't want to sound arrogant, but I think we did a pretty fair job. In fact, we did a good job, but of course there are alterations that you would wish you could make now. Yes. Had we known, for example, that it would have the impact that it did, that I would be here in... Now, let me get this right. I'm in San Jose. I'm never quite sure where I am sometimes when I've been flying around the country. If I'd known I'd be here talking to you in San Jose a few years after the event, maybe I'd have done something differently. Maybe we would have had an American actor in. That would have been good, wouldn't it?
Would have been interesting.
Well, I mean, we've got a British actor in Star Trek, the new one.
Paul, how did you become involved in the acting business?
I'm an only child, so I spent a lot of time trying to entertain myself when I was younger, and inevitably I ended up going to the movies.
You're a big Humphrey Bogart fan, aren't you?
That's right, sweetheart, yeah. Yeah. I have to tell you, I must tell you this. I went to, it's called Mann's Chinese Theatre now, isn't it? It used to be called Grauman's. I went there for the first time in my life. I hope I'll go again. But I went there and I immediately sought Humphrey Bogart's plaque. And I put my feet into Humphrey Bogart's footprints. And they fitted exactly. And that is a very happy moment for me.
All the footprints, all the cement in the world, you had to...
That's right. You always had to fit mine. Well, here's looking at you, kid, yeah. Great man, a great man.
You studied law, too, is that correct?
Yes, I did for a little while. My father wanted me to be a barrister, what you would call a... I don't know what you
lawyer.
Call it. Yes, but they combine both things. We have a solicitor and a barrister. The barrister actually pleads the case. The solicitor sets it up. Very akin to acting, actually.
Yeah, I would think that there is a certain quality that you have to perform in both cases.
That's right. My brother-in-law, my wife's brother, is a barrister in England. Actually, they just made him a judge. So that's interesting. Yeah.
Gives a little insight into Avon's character. He's a lawyer.
Yes. Oh, well, maybe, yes, a little bit. But yes, I did that for a little while, just to please my father, really.
So you grew up in the movies, then?
Yes. And I watched all these movies and I wanted to be part of them. And so I decided I'd become an actor. Because I liked, not only Bogart, of course, Spencer Tracy, great actor. Alan Ladd, slightly different kind of actor, but good in what he did. Various others, and up to today, of course, Marlon Brando, Olivier I saw a lot of, being in England. In theatre as well as in the cinema, and that's what I wanted to do. And eventually I went to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art.
Have you done any films?
Now that is my great regret. I've done TV movies. One, I think, was shown over here. I played a leading role in that. It was relatively successful, I suppose. But my most successful one was where I played a sort of sub-James Bond character. And that's been shown in every country in the world, I think, except this one. Which is amazing, but there you are.
Do you have a desire to do more film?
Yes, yes. That's an area that I would like to explore, yes.
So what's next for Paul Darrow? What do you have up your sleeve?
Well, I've been doing a lot of plays, theatre in England. Trying out is what we call them, you know, trying out new plays, see if we can get it into the West End. And then I finished a run in the West End in a play a fortnight ago. And I'm pretty tired of that now. So I also got a new agent, and he's quite tough and looks after my interests very well. And I said, listen, I would really rather like some time off. Also, I've written a book.
Oh, really?
It's a prequel to Blake 7. You asked me earlier, which is the question you're always asked, what is Avon like? And what was he like before the series? What made him the way he is? So I have written that story, and I finished it about 2 weeks ago. And I've given a copy to Terry Nation, who I stayed with in Los Angeles, and I'm going to New York next week to meet a publisher in New York to hand over the script, and hopefully they'll do it.
Do you have a working title so we know what to look for?
I have a working title, yes. Whether it's good enough title, I don't know. It's called Avon, A Terrible Aspect.
Intriguing, very intriguing.
It's a quotation from Henry V, from the speech before Harfleur, when he says, in time of war, stiffen the sinews, summon up the blood, then lend the eye a terrible aspect. So, and as you just mentioned, the look, then it seemed to me to be a fairly apt title, but they may want to change it to Avon's Sex Life on Saturn or something like that. You know, I mean, okay, I'm amenable.
Can you give us just a little bit of a hint of what's in there? What?
Yes, it's basically about his family. He's born at the beginning of the book, and it's his family. It's sort of, I suppose, Dallas in outer space.
So what makes Avon the man he becomes?
You have to read the book, George.
I knew that was coming. I just knew that was coming. Paul Darrow, thank you so much for talking with us, and thank you for your work on Blake 7.
And thank you for having me here.
Thank you. And thank you for watching. Stay tuned for Blake 7 coming up momentarily as science fiction continues on Channel 54. Right now, though, we're going to be taking a brief pause for the cause here at Public Television, so our many Paul Darrow and Blake 7 fans can make their pledges for science fiction. Our phone number is 800-225-5454, so why not call right now before Blake 7 gets underway?
Hello, I am Paul Darrow. You probably know me better as Avon from Blake 7, and if you watch Blake 7, you know that my character is somewhat unpredictable. You never quite know where my loyalties lie. Well, I know where your loyalties should lie. Right here with KTEH, Channel 54 Public Television in San Jose. If you like quality science fiction, KTEH is the station in the Bay Area. And if you haven't done so already, why don't you make your pledge now and support your source for outstanding science fiction programming? KTEH, Channel 54. Support them now, or else.